Hi, this is Pamela Parker, Research Director of the Content Studio at Third Door Media. And I'm here to remind you that the Search Engine Land Awards are now open for entries. So get your team recognized for the outstanding work they do in search marketing. Visit this link to enter today, and good luck.
Hi everyone, my name is Luanne Marek, and today I'm going to be talking about how to drive success in branded SEM in some of the lessons I've learned with over $1 billion in spend. So, a newly released report from the IAB indicates that digital advertising spend increased by 35% in 2021 to 189 billion. That's the largest increase since 2006. Simultaneously, many challenges, such as privacy concerns, third party cookie loss, fraudulent ad metrics, performance measurement challenges, and supply chain transparency, has made it harder to optimize marketing campaigns. So I think it's important for many businesses right now to be looking into new ways to optimize their SEM. So, why am I qualified to talk about big budget SEM campaigns? Well, I've been working in the digital customer acquisition space for the last 12 years and have headed the media buying team for Centerfield Media for the last 6 years, where my team manages paid search for about a half dozen Fortune 100 companies and several dozen Fortune 500 companies, as well as many comparison format owned and operated sites. We also have a team of social and display media buyers, but today we're going to be focusing on SEM. So, under our umbrella, we are currently managing 137 accounts in Google. We have optimized, like I said, over $1 billion in Google spend on over 500 million keywords. With this much spend, we have the advantage of testing a large array of concepts and quickly gaining learnings and iterating on them. So, who is Centerfield? We are a digital marketing services company, and we work with leading brands in the home and wireless services, B2B, e-com, and insurance industries. We have a proprietary integrated technology platform called Dugout, and it leverages big data and real-time optimization to engage and convert customers at scale. So we put this presentation together because we wanted to share ways we've been successful with some of the world's leading brands. I'm going to go through 6 simple lessons on how to get more customers from your brand search campaigns. So, how do you get more customers from your brand's search campaigns? Is it even possible to get more customers from your brand search campaigns? It's simple. You test against others. But in our test with brands, we've seen brand campaigns perform 120% better than their baseline. These are big brands, and many thought they were doing well in the branded space until someone challenged that thought, which, as you can imagine, with any big brand comes with a lot of resistance. A lot of the thought that since it's lower funnel traffic, there isn't a reason to change anything on one of their highest converting channels. They would have never known that there was a significant amount of conversions being left on the table had they not tested their current method against another. Results like these are not uncommon. In the test shown here, we measured how many sales each partner could drive per 1,000 brand impressions in the campaigns that they were showing for. These were the same keywords in historically similar geographies. Not only did we find that we were able to increase sales by 122%, but the quality of sales also increased by 313%. The brand search space should already be one of your highest converting channels. But what if it was 120% better? So that takes us into lesson 2, third-party test measurement. So you decide you're ready to take that step and test your current paid search strategy against another. You may think we have all the data we need, we can measure any test that we want to launch. But far too often, we've seen tests flop Or, in other words, they were unable to successfully determine the outcome or next steps because the measurement of the test was not well laid out. The data collection wasn't accurate. And probably the most common, there's a lot of emotional attachment to the results from people who have been managing or working with those managing their search for a long time. When that happens, it makes it difficult to look at the results in an unbiased way. So, bringing in a third party who specializes in this type of data analysis is the ideal way to correct baselines, create balanced splits, use symmetrical data in measurement, ensure there are clear performance based outcomes, and of course, it allows the test to be run without any emotional attachment to the readouts. The testing we've seen that has resulted in the best outcome for the brands have been managed by someone other than the test participants. So, lesson number 3, always be experimenting. Aside from overall campaign management testing, within campaigns, you should always be experimenting. The experiments can come in many forms and shouldn't be limited to just one. We perform thousands of tests a month on keywords, campaign structure, bidding strategies, ad copy, and of course, landing pages. You'd be surprised to hear that close to 80% of these tests don't pan out. And the ones that do often only win by 5 to 10%. And we encourage our team to be okay with the ones that don't work out. In fact, one of our 9 cultural traits of being a Centerfielder is to get up to the bat and swing. Take risks and learn from those decisions. But each incremental win adds up. When we find a win, we scale it across other campaigns. Of course, we test every iteration. Just because a concept outperformed on one brand does not mean it'll perform the same way on all. The key to ensure you have a good test is the testing platform. Make sure that you can measure results of any test through to your end goal. For instance, when we test any landing page copy like shown here, we aren't only looking at which call to action texts created more clicks. We're looking at how many sales per page view each version is resulting in. If you aren't looking at the full funnel of results from a test and only focused on one metric, you can be making the wrong call on a winner. So in this example, while the submit button resulted in more form submissions, the See Package button resulted in the most sales per page view and ultimately won by 33%. This was a pretty large win for us that we would not have identified had we not used a technology platform that measured the full funnel. Lesson number 4, optimize your real estate. So an area that we see many brands falling short in is not taking advantage of the full real estate available in the paid search results. And the question often comes up, do multiple branded positions drive incrementality or just increase your CPA? Of course, the best way to find out is to test. But from the case studies we've run, our findings are that incrementality can often be seen, especially if the other brand's conquesting or aggregators are showing up on your brand terms. Conquesting is almost always a reality of big brands. The others want to feed off of your brand's equity. Adding a second paid branded position into the SERP will push those conquesting into the bottom of the page. And more often, instead of a user looking for your brand and seeing a compelling message from one of your competitors in between your paid search ad and your organic ad, they'll only see your brand's message. Conquesters often can't compete with the CPAs that the branded campaigns can drive. So they will fall behind the multiple brand positions most of the time. In case study 1 shown, we were working with a brand who had a major competing brand bidding on their brand terms. And they wanted to know how much they were losing and if they could take it back while still maintaining their CPA. What we found was with the P2 strategy, they were able to increase sales by 121% and only increase CPA by 9%. We've seen Many brands that think that the easy answer to this is just allowing aggregators to bid into the space to help push conquestors out. But just because an aggregator sells your brand does not mean it's beneficial to have them there. You really want a second position that'll convert clicks at the highest rate possible and ensure they're representing your brand to the standards you expect. Management of aggregators in the brand space becomes extremely tedious to ensure that they're following the guidelines you've laid out, especially if they aren't SEM experts and instead just run some SEM on the side to drive additional volume. So in case study 2 shown, the brand didn't have a solid P2 strategy, and there was just a lot of rogue aggregators and kind of small competitors that were showing up in the SERP. So we added in a branded P2, and we did see an initial 25% cost increase for P1. But after only a week, we were able to see the costs return to the previous levels and saw sales increase by 39%. Lesson 5, personalize the experience. Just throwing a bunch of keywords that you feel have similar intent into ad groups and sending them to a landing page that has the product or service that they're looking for isn't enough anymore. This is literally the bare minimum that you should be doing. Where the real magic comes in is actually personalizing the entire experience. Use a technology which can personalize and speak to the user about what's important to them. Not only in ad copy, but make sure it flows through the entire user flow, including the landing page, any e-com, if there's an IVR interaction, and all the way through to the contact center. We believe that contextualization creates conversions. Using automation to do this in every step of the user's journey is the best way to keep them engaged. Lesson 6, the buyer journey isn't linear. So the market's getting increasingly competitive, and consumers are doing more research before making a buying decision. Here, we asked Google to share some stats on the typical internet and cable consumer. They shared that 50% are considering 3 or more options, 65% are using digital to inform their decision, 59% will have 3 or more touch points before making a conversion. And with the increasing loss of cookies and other important third-party data, you need to utilize automation and omni-channel optimization to meet the consumer at every stage of their buying journey. Not all consumers are the same. In a world of so many options, if you don't have the experience they want, there's a high likelihood they'll just move on to the next option. A great example of this is chat and SMS, which barely existed as conversion channels less than 5 years ago, but now are a staple in any good omni-channel experience. So get ahead of the trends before your competition does, and let the consumer be reached how and where they want to. It's important to meet the consumer where they prefer to be met. We recently had an industry manager from Facebook at one of our conferences, and she explained how their research had shown that the B2B consumer prefers remote human interaction. Thus, they believe that Meta's VR meeting world, Horizon Workrooms, is the next channel to experience exponential growth when it comes to B2B sales channels. Maybe it's the next one. So, if you're asking yourself what's next, here are a couple of things that I recommend. If you've been working with the same company for a long time and haven't seen increases year over year, test against another vendor or two. There are many options out there, so test your current paid brand search strategy against others. Traditional agencies can be great for some marketing efforts, but look into some proven pay-per-performance marketers as well, because they can help identify areas where you could be getting more from your branding dollars that are driving users to consider your brand. Most often, they are not taking a % of your media spend either, and don't get paid unless you gain a customer. Just ensure that the team you're working with can prove value through measurable results. So bringing in a third-party vendor to help validate and facilitate the testing is the next best option. And lastly, push the envelope on giving consumers choice. Just because one conversion path has worked well for you doesn't mean it's the only one you should focus on. It's not about spreading the same conversions amongst alternate paths. It's about the incrementality you can gain from adding those paths. So, thank you for tuning in. Even though we spent over $1 billion at Google, we're still learning every day. And we hope that you can take some of our learnings and increase your brand's SEM results.
Thank you for watching. Click the agenda link at the top of your screen to choose your next session.